Is Kentucky the biggest sleeper team in the SEC? Now, a popular sleeper team that a lot of people have been really high on in the media has been Kentucky. Now, last year they went 5-6. They finished 4-6 in SEC play, but a lot of people are really high on the Wildcats this year. You're going to have a new look offense under offensive coordinator Leon Cohen, who was the assistant coach for the Los Angeles Rams under Sean McVay. So a lot of Kentucky fans are excited to see what changes and wrinkles he adds to this Kentucky offense. And it's going to be really exciting to see because Kentucky's offense has kind of been a little bit old-fashioned. They've been running the football, only throwing need be. So now with this new look offense, you're going to have a new QB in Will Levis who's going to get the start. It was already announced a couple of days ago that he was going to end up being a starting quarterback. And apparently, according to Coach Stoops, it was pretty obvious that Will Levis was the best QB from spring camp and whatnot. Now, I was kind of a little bit disappointed because I wanted to see my guy Joey Gatewood get the start. He now has entered the transfer portal, or it's expected that he will enter the transfer portal. And I'm a big Joey Gatewood fan simply for the fact that I lived in the city of Jacksonville, and I've kind of watched Joey Gatewood play a lot during his time at Barton Trail. So, of course, I was rooting for my guy Joey Gatewood. So he's going to end up transferring. But Will Levis clearly, according to Coach Stoops, was the best QB, and it didn't really sound like the quarterback competition was all that close. So you look at Will Levis, transfer for Penn State. How good is he going to be in this offense? Well, you're looking at the guy who should be extremely accurate. I think he has a pretty good arm as well. And throwing to one of the best wide receiver duos in the SEC, you have Josh Ali. You also have Wandel Robinson, transfer from Nebraska. He was the best player on Nebraska's offense last year. So when you look at Josh Ali, he's considered to be a super senior. That's when you had the seniors who played during COVID who were able to come back for one more year of eligibility. So he had 54 receptions last year for 473 receiving yards and a touchdown. Then you look at Wandel Robinson. We already know what he can do. He's already one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. And I think that Josh Ali is going to end up having a great season. I feel like his stats were kind of held back last year by the quarterback play of Kentucky. Terry Wilson wasn't really the greatest thrower of the football. He was a better runner than he was a passer. Now you have a guy in Will Levis who should increase Josh Ali's play. I'm really excited to see Wandel Robinson. Like, this guy is incredible. You also have tight end Keaton Upshaw, who was second last year in receptions on the team. Then you have what a lot of people think is the best offensive line in the SEC, returning 3 out of 5 starters from last year. The running game also was really good, and it should continue to improve with running back Chris Rodriguez expected to get the majority of the workload. He had 785 rushing yards, 6.6 yards per carry, and 11 touchdowns. Now, you did lose Azim Rose, who now is on the Minnesota Vikings, tearing it up right now. But Chris Rodriguez could end up carrying the load, and I think that he could end up being one of the more underrated running backs in the SEC by the end of this year. So you look at Kentucky and how they're going to make changes on offense, trying to modernize their offense to what the majority of other teams out there are doing. And I think that's a really good first step, because if you want to be able to compete in this day and age of college football, you have to be able to score points on the offense. You can't win just running the football 30, 40 times a game and only throwing the football when need be and relying on having an elite defense. You got to be able to at least score 30 points nowadays in this era if you want to be able to contend for not only a conference title but for a national title as well. Now, the defense did lose a lot of talent. Okay, you lost Jamin Davis, who was drafted in the first round by Washington, Boogie Watson, you lost Kelvin Joseph and Quentin Bohanna, so you lost a lot. And I understand why a lot of people may not be high on Kentucky's defense, but I don't think that their defense is going to have that far of a drop-off. And the reason why I say that is because I think Kentucky has a really underrated player development program. I think Kentucky is one of the better teams in college football when it comes to developing the players that they have on their roster, because you got to understand that Kentucky doesn't recruit on the level as a Alabama, LSU, or Georgia. They're not bringing in top 10, top 15 recruiting classes year after year. So Kentucky, I think they do a really good job developing the players that they're able to get. You know, they have to sit for a couple of years, wait, And, you know, around their third, fourth year, that's where the Kentucky program really starts to peak. Kentucky is one of those programs, like, I feel like every once in a while they have a peak year where they come out of nowhere and they win like 9 games. So when you look at Kentucky, I think that their player development is really underrated. And I think that they have one of the best player development programs in all of college football. I really like the way that they develop their players. And also on top of that, they're getting these guys into the league. You're getting Jamin Davis, who was drafted in the first round this past year. You got Kevin Joseph, who was drafted in the second round. Not to mention, a couple of years ago, you had Josh Allen, who went in the first round. So Kentucky is really good when it comes to not only developing the players that they have on their team, but getting them ready for the next level, which is a really good recruiting tool. So I'm not really that concerned about the players that Kentucky lost on defense, because they're really good when it comes to developing players and getting guys ready. So you have linebacker DeAndre Square, who was third on the team last year in tackles. He had 60. You also have Jordan White, who had 3.5 sacks, 45 tackles. I think he's going to have a really good year. I think he probably could end up being one of the better linebackers in the SEC with what he's able to do, not only getting after the quarterback, but also in terms of what he does in the on run defense also. Now the secondary, don't really know how I feel about it, okay? You do have Corker there at safety, who is one of the best in the SEC. He can do a lot of things. He had 77 tackles last year, 2 interceptions. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like that Tyrann Mathieu, Jamal Adams hybrid. You know, you can blitz him off the edge. He's also pretty solid in coverage, and he can come down and kind of be like another linebacker if you need him to. So he's really good, but outside of that, you know, I still have some reservations about the other safety spot. And cornerback, okay, cornerback isn't, you know, bad. You do have Cedric Dort there, but I still need to see a little bit more work done. And the pass rush needs a lot of improvement also, because that was a big Achilles heel that Kentucky's defense had last season when it came to being able to consistently get pressure on the quarterback. But overall, is Kentucky the biggest sleeper team in the SEC? I mean, I'm not going to say they're not, but at the same time, I definitely would say that I have a little bit more confidence in a team like Ole Miss or Arkansas than I do in Kentucky. I definitely understand why people are really high on Kentucky with how talented of an offense they could have this year. I definitely see the potential with Wandel Robinson, Josh Ali Rodriguez there in that new look offense. But at the same time, you do have Arkansas, who I think is just a little bit more impressive with their offensive line. I think their offensive line is the best in the SEC. Then you also got to look at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to be really competitive. They're going to be really good this year. They could end up winning the West this year with how great their offense is going to be. I know their defense isn't going to be that great, but their defense definitely should be more improved this year. So I agree that Kentucky is a sleeper, but I don't think they're the biggest sleeper team in the SEC like a lot of people are trying to say they are. I still like Arkansas a little bit more and Ole Miss better than I like Kentucky. Not trying to take anything away from Kentucky. I just like those teams a little bit more because I don't think they have as many question marks on the defense side. Well, I won't say that about Ole Miss, but when you look at Arkansas, I think their defense is going to be better than Kentucky, and I think that Arkansas probably could have a better season than Kentucky this year. Then you look at Ole Miss with how great their offense is going to be and how many points they can put up on the board. I also think that they're going to be better than Kentucky, but I definitely can understand why a lot of people are really high on Kentucky and why a lot of people feel Kentucky is a big sleeper team. They're probably the biggest sleeper team in the SEC East, but in the SEC as a whole, I just like Ole Miss and Arkansas a little bit more, simply for the fact that I just like how good the offensive line play is for Arkansas. I like how much experience they have on both sides of the football. And then you look at Ole Miss, I think their offense and Lane Kiffin, they're going to be able to upset a lot of people this year. So not trying to take anything away from Kentucky, but I want to say they're the biggest sleeper team in the SEC like a lot of people are trying to say. But I definitely understand why a lot of people feel they're underrated. But you have concerns at corner, and you have concerns when it comes to your pass rush. So I'm interested in seeing how those two positions play out. But overall, I am pretty high on Kentucky. I'm just not high on Kentucky as a good amount of other people are on Kentucky. You know, I think Kentucky can be like a 7-win team. Maybe they can get 9 wins, but overall, I don't really see this team being the biggest sleeper team in the SEC. But you guys let me know how you guys feel about Kentucky down in the comment section down below.